The last item here is by the numbers, and fortunately we lost this week both of our state fellows through the California Sea Grant program, so we're going to have to make do with one of our
new young interns, Mr. Hurd.
Yeah, and Sam's actually been managing you, working with Emily, did a great job mentoring her during the year, and by the numbers was just one of the activities, but I think she got a lot out of it. So Sam, maybe you can fill in for Emily's data.
I'll try. You get the B team today. So, well, you have the numbers in front of you, and we tried to find some green ones. I know there's a lot of orange and red on here. So we did manage to find one green number, and I think that's reflective of the state of the water supply and the current conditions. So no surprise to anyone that water storage is not great. It's around 60% of normal for this time of year in the major reservoirs. San Luis Reservoir is quite a bit lower. It's relied on quite a bit for water supply south of the Delta, especially for
agriculture. Do you have a new copy of that? Because it was not in my agenda packet, and I didn't see it this morning on the table. Look, find it in the meantime. Later you can get us copies.
We'll get it to you. That's probably my fault.
Sam, our intern, was more thorough.
She was. I told you had the B team. So I will go quickly and then get out of here and get you copies. So Northern Sierra water supply, the water this year, the precipitation is right around a quarter of normal. Southern Sierra is not much better. The first readings, we actually can get some readings on the snowpack through CDEC. They have automatic sensors, and it's running right about 28% of normal at this time, which is not great. Not moving a lot of water through the Delta because there's not a lot of water there to move. There's plenty of places to put it. We just don't have the water supply right now. One number that came up during the month, and Emily's done a really good job at kind of digging through news reports and finding things that are of interest and related to the Delta, is that there were a large number of salmon, eggs, and fry that got dewatered in the upper Sacramento River in the last few weeks or months. And this is because they normally cut down the water releases out of Shasta at this time of the year, but usually there's rainfall to make up that difference. And this year there wasn't any. So there was this is just fall run fish, so it's not the endangered salmon run, but they did get quite a loss of eggs in the upper river, primarily because of the dry year conditions. One bright spot in the by the numbers that I will get to you shortly, is that the Hetch Hetchy reservoir operations this year were really turned out to be much more efficient than normal. They had very little spillage that didn't go through the turbine, so they kind of maximized the amount of power generation from the reservoir. And the reason for that was because they have a greatly improved modeling capability that's supported by JPL through remote sensing. So they basically were able to do a really sophisticated modeling of the amount of snowpack in the watershed and match that melting and that runoff through the reservoir so that they made the maximum use of the available water. And that kind of improved technology is really going to help us do a better job of making the use of water supplies that we do have. So one last number in that is that there was 375,000 pounds of water hyacinth removed from the Stockton ship channel in downtown Stockton in the last few months, and it's been a bad year for water hyacinth in the Delta. I think the low flow conditions and the temperature have something to do with that, but they actually have a mechanical harvester that comes in, and the Port of Stockton actually paid for that to come in, and so it continues to be that introduced species continues to be a major problem in the Delta. So with that, I'll stop and listen.
Mr. Fiorini.
Sam, thank you. I have a question for Dr. Goodwin. It was a great report. I look forward to getting the printed copy.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Goodwin, You indicated that you're going to review the long-term operations biological opinion report and get back to us. It would be interesting for me to know that what impact these findings will have on the available water supply. As I recall, the impetus for this was a concern by the water operators that the biology that was applied was done by agency biologists behind closed doors, and there wasn't an opportunity to question the thought behind it. Now there is an open process, and so if you can, when you come back to us next month, if you could render an opinion on whether this is leading to more available water, no change, or less, that would be very important.
Sure. No, we can certainly make a projection on that. I would also say that the purpose of these reviews from the agencies themselves, your best judgment is made when you write a biological opinion, and there was flexibility around that. So it's really from the agencies as well as external pressure that I think they just want to make sure that those RPAs that are put in place are having their intended consequence. And if not, you're willing to look elsewhere, or to take on new ideas. So I will do my best to do that, but it's the...
I should probably mention, yesterday there was another brown bag lunch sponsored by the science program, and the discussion was about the recent settlement agreement between the City of Los Angeles Department of Water and Power and the Mono Lake Committee as part of this 25-plus year dispute, argument, litigation, settlement, and so on. And it strikes me that when you get into a long process that's contentious and politically difficult, what the Mono Lake settlement seemed to indicate is the parties eventually exhaust themselves and get to some notion of a regularized, periodic, scientific review of key elements on a regular basis. And the interesting thing in the settlement is that the Mono Lake Committee had agreed that adjustments in water supplies, including adjustments up for the city, might happen depending upon the scientific findings. And that's, of course, pretty much the direction we're headed on adaptive management. So, it's not easy to get there, but this kind of stuff struck me as comparable to what they're doing in a more narrow situation, but equally important.
Yeah. Actually, thank you, Mr. Chair, for raising it. And I couldn't agree with that more. That's a case that is held up literally around the world. How the science was put together, how communities came together. So I think there's actually a lot to be learned from that case.
Now, in fairness, Mr. McQuirkin said when he was asked by, I don't know, maybe it was Dr. Hastings, I don't remember, somebody said, could this have happened without the water board's constant monitoring of the activity? And he said no. That made it real. It also allowed the setting of timetable and deadlines and forced the determination. Anyway, okay. Randy, did you have any other questions? Okay. Dr. Goodwin, anything else?
No, that's all for me. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, sir.